This is the 10-Minute Contrarian Podcast. This is VP. We are a solutions-based podcast, diving into the world of contrarian investing and alternative finance. You can find us hosted on the No Nonsense Forex YouTube channel, NoNonsenseForex.com, and podcast players everywhere. Episode 184 is brought to us by Bybit. Some of you probably sat back and watched everybody during 2024 absolutely murder it in crypto trading. It's really hard not to when crypto gives you the gains it does on the upside and on the downside when you're trading. Maybe your resolution in 2025 is to not get left out like you did in 2024. That's a good resolution. And if it's all the same, trade with one of the largest, most well-capitalized, well-serviced brokers in the world. Trade with Bybit. Go down, click the link below in the show notes to the blog, which tells you everything you need to know about Bybit in its current state. Click my affiliate link at the bottom there and open the portal to everything that Bybit offers. Because as many people who listen to this show have already figured out, with Bybit, membership has its rewards. It is the 10-Minute Contrarian Podcast, and I'm spending time with family over the holidays. So I don't know if you're going to be able to hear people watching a movie in the background, but I guess it beats all the road traffic and stuff I get in Latin America. But again, I have no idea what the microphone picks up. Hopefully we'll be nice and quiet background-wise this week. But the episode this week is the same episode we have at the end of every year, and that is a report card to see how my predictions this past January actually played out, and then provide a little bit of commentary on it, making sure I don't cannibalize some key information I'm going to be letting out in the 2025 January prediction episodes, which are going to be the next 4 episodes on this podcast, barring some kind of worldwide emergency. But I went into this whole thing, this episode, actually pretty cocky. I'm like, man, my main base case for my predictions for 2024 were that the United States was going to prop up everything as much as they could in order to try and get the incumbent to win the United States election in 2024. Because Trump is the one candidate that either just doesn't play ball at all or plays ball a lot less with the real powers that be than pretty much every other administration we have seen in my lifetime. And the campaign against him was unlike anything I'd ever seen before. So I knew the motivation was there. And so they were going to use every trick in the book to make this happen. Now, there were some tricks that even I didn't expect. They did shoot at him twice. But financially, which is what we're here for, that prediction was dead on. Now, you would have thought that would have led to me sweeping the board or coming close to it, but not really. It was a bit of a humbling experience listening to all of the January 2024 episodes like I did this week. So for anybody who is new or has forgotten, what I do with the prediction episodes is I don't project a certain area for any of these things to hit. I've never been an advocate of that. I've always thought that's a pretty dumb idea. And this goes all the way back to my Forex trading days, to where I tell people, look, don't try to pinpoint exactly where a price is going to go. You know, a lot of people make that mistake by using support and resistance lines, Fibonacci extensions, whatever the case is. And it's cool when it works, but it only really works in hindsight, and it does not work anywhere near enough to make it a viable method for money management. You know, just get the up or down part right and let your system do the rest. And that's similar to what we do here on the 10-Minute Contrarian Podcast. So for reference, I am shooting this on the 27th of December. That's a Friday. I'm going to release it on Saturday the 28th, but I'm also flying out that day, so I want to have everything shot already. So the market is still a couple hours away from closing, but I will tell you what the price was on the first trading day of 2024, and we will compare it to where it is now. So let's go ahead and begin with the S&P 500 on January 2nd. The S&P was trading right about 47.45. As of right now, we are looking at 59.66. That is way up, and my prediction was also up. Now, we just talked about this. This was probably, I think, the second easiest prediction on the board. And again, it just goes back to human interest and history, really. Anytime, any election year, in the U.S. at least, where they have tried to get the incumbent in, they always do a really good job of fluffing up prices all across the economy. So no surprise here. Towards the early part of 2024, I put my money where my mouth was, invested in the ETF QQQ, the NASDAQ ETF, and we have been riding that position up ever since. Let's go ahead and move on to gold. On January 2nd, 2024, the price of gold was at $20.64. It currently sits now at $26.34. So up almost $600. It was higher in the past. And I also said up on the price of gold, and that was a really big win. Now, if you would have asked me to make a price prediction, I would not have said it would have gotten that high. But as we saw in 2024, central banks all over the world are gearing up for something. Not sure what it's going to be, but they are. And they bought a lot of gold. 2023 they did too, but 2024 they really ramped this up even further. And so this has been a good investment for us and just continues to be. Because remember, gold doesn't have to do anything, really, to be successful. It's just defense. But the fact that it goes up, and in this case, up almost 30%, was really, really a nice bonus for us in 2024. So kudos to all you gold holders out there. I think that's most of you. Now, what about silver? So, on January 2nd, 2024, silver was at $23.73. We are currently now sitting right about at $30. That is another big increase, and that was one we also called higher. Now, the main super upside component of silver that I think the electrification and the fact that you really can't substitute it with any real success, I don't think a lot of that played a part in 2024. I could be totally wrong. But it did move up with the price of gold, as you would expect. So unless you're really trying to put too fine of a point on it, anytime you're going to bet gold to go one way, you should probably bet silver to do the same. That's what we did this year, and another win, 3-0. So where should we go next? Let's go to oil. Oil, interesting, I guess. On January 2nd, 2024, oil was at $70.38. It now currently sits at $70.60. Okay, when I was doing my notes yesterday, I had this down as a loss because it was in the 69 range. And so it was a very small loss, but a loss nonetheless. Now it's a small win. I got this huge smile on my face. I can't even really chalk this up as a win. This is pretty much a nothing. But for the sake of keeping score, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Take it. So give me another win for 2024 in the predictions market. Now, I said, look, I am done trying to figure out where oil is going for 2024. I completely stopped trading it. I sold off any positions I had in it. I was just done, and that turned out to be a really nice move too, because as anybody out there trading oil probably knows, it has not been kind to trend traders, at least. Now, for what it's worth, I do think it's going to be a really intriguing story in 2025, but I think 2024 was just a good year to stay away from it. Mostly, I think the price reflects that, and that's just where we are. I don't have much to say about oil, really, until we hit that 2025 prediction episode. Then I certainly will, so stay tuned for that. So 4-0 going into copper. On January 2nd, 2024, copper was at $3.86. I predicted the price of copper to go down, and it did not. Hang on, let me find it here. Copper is currently at $4.12. And if you recall, it spiked as high as $5. So really a very incorrect call there on my part. And if you recall, too, it spiked on this weird narrative, another China narrative that there's going to be this big renaissance in the Chinese market. And there may be currently in certain sectors, but in totality, there just hasn't really been. China has not been a good place to invest at all. And the weight of that market just continues to go down and drag everything else with it. Yet that still wasn't enough to take the price of copper down in a 12-month period. For what it's worth, I think copper is going to be very intriguing in 2025, so get ready for that energy episode. I think that's going to be my favorite one to do this year. But prediction-wise, this will be my first loss of 2024. All right, so 4-1, where to go next? Let's just get all the energy ones out of the way, and let's move over to natural gas. On January 2nd, 2024, the price of natural gas was $2.57. I said higher because it could not possibly go lower at this point, and price of natural gas currently sits at $3.47. So another win there for prediction purposes, and another, like I said, that energy episode coming up is going to be a banger. One of the more intriguing stories, I think, going into 2025. I've already made my thoughts known on this about a month back, if you recall. And sentiment about natural gas is still in the toilet because of what people have had to go through these past couple of years. But again, you guys know where I'm about to be positioned there, and stay tuned for that episode. So let's finish off the energy portion here and move over to uranium. And I used the URNM ETF as my guidepost here. And on January 2nd, we saw the price of URNM sitting at $48.03. I predicted higher. And the actual retail price of URNM right now is actually lower, $40.47. And this was with, if you recall, a really nice spike back in early fall. When everybody was talking about, Microsoft reopening 3 Mile Island, and a big uranium narrative really started to bubble to the surface, and it just didn't seem to matter. And I've said before, uranium is just one of those things that you have to take a very long-term approach to. I think the rewards are extraordinary, and I think it's worth doing. But if your time horizon is only about 2 or 3 years, this is not where you want to be. And reasons like what we saw this year are a big part of why I feel that way. Even when the news is great, it just doesn't seem to reflect in the stocks. But similar to gold and silver mining, there will come a time when it finally will, and there will be no better place in the entire market to be. But that's all I'm going to say there. Let's count the wins and losses here. Wins, 1, 2, 3. Oil is now 4. Natural gas is 5. Uranium is my loss. Copper is my loss. So 5 and 2. With 2 to go, let's move over to Bitcoin. Now, in the crypto episode, I made some general predictions about other tokens and about the metaverse and gaming market as a whole. But those weren't official on the record predictions because, it's with stuff like that, you have no idea. I did say, for what it's worth, I thought 2025 was going to be a really exciting year for metaverse and gaming projects. But if there's one thing you can count on, it's me being way too early on things like that. But again, we'll talk about that in the predictions episodes. For now, Bitcoin was on January 1st, trading at $45,000, almost dead on. And right now, we are currently sitting at $94,000, 212 cents. So some of you guys might be feeling poopy that we have dropped from 108, but if you put it into perspective, that is more than a doubling of where we were this time last year. And yes, I said we're going higher, and yes, that was my strongest prediction of 2024. So look, I know it sounds like I'm gloating and I'm putting a crown on my own head, but this is the one time a year I really get to do that, and last year I absolutely ate shit, if you recall, so I did not get to do it. And it was nothing but self-deprecation and drinking cheap whiskey. So God damn it, give me my moment here. My biggest bet of the year, Bitcoin, turned out great. Hope it turned out great for you as well. And we can all certainly raise a glass to that one. So finally, let's take a look at my prediction for the United States dollar, because I think this is the most interesting one. So we'll go with the DXY. We know the DXY is not perfect by any means because it's not equally weighted. But for what it's worth, on January 2nd, 2024, the DXY was sitting at $102.20. I said that it's going to go lower because if everything else is going to go higher, then the dollar needs to go lower, right? Well, I was wrong about that. Pretty badly, actually, if you understand the DXY. We're now sitting today at $108.03. Yeah, and again, that's a really bad miss. Now, pardon me for thinking that if the money has all got to go somewhere, it's got to come away from something else. That's how things normally work. But I think what we started to see this year was a glimpse, maybe, not exactly a textbook example, but we really started to get that big spike in the DXY right after the election. I would have actually been pretty close to winning that prediction if it wasn't for the election results itself. But it is starting to look like the dollar milkshake theory, to where America just ends up eating the world and the dollar ends up eating the world. And we have seen a bit of what that can look like during the last 2 months of 2024. And I would be absolutely lying to you if I said I expected something like that. Now, I remember in last week's episode called Never Stop Prepping, I said, okay, there's a lot of hope and a lot of expectation for this administration. Do not expect it all to go down the way you think it's going to go down. Expectations are one thing, reality is another. And we actually already saw this week, oddly enough, a little bit of a glimpse of some people losing faith in the Department of Government Efficiency, Musk and Vivek. Trump hasn't even been sworn in yet, and there's already rumblings. And when people have these lofty, unreasonable expectations, and then they don't get met, what does that look like? We're going to have, contrarians, we're going to have so much to talk about next month. Stay tuned for that. But 6-3 on the year, I will take that. It has been a good year for me, trading and investing. I hope it has been for you too. Those who take the time to do the research, execute, and then understand their own money management and psychology along the way are always going to do really well. If you lack in any of those things, and make 2025 the year to where you are going to correct those things, I have a feeling execution is a big one for a lot of you. But as always, I will do my part to try and steer the ship here. Get ready for the 2025 predictions episodes, starting with macro next year. I wish all of you a fantastic remainder of 2024. Enjoy your champagne, but remember, you only get one glass. This game is just starting. And as we attempt to get ahead of the curve in 2025, remember, it's always going to feel weird when we do. Because if you're going to do things this way, you're going to buy things when nobody else wants to buy them. But also remember that we are not crazy. We are just early.